tuned into Time with Irubadi Ibrahim, and today we have a very important guest. We are going to discuss affirmative action. Affirmative action is an active effort to improve the employment or educational opportunities of members of minority groups and women. Affirmative action policies can be traced back to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. There couldn't have been a better person to do this discussion with but a stateswoman, a mother, and a woman of God. You can't afford to miss this discussion. Stick and stay with us. When we come back, I introduce my guest. You're welcome back. We are here in the studio with Dr. Joyce Ayi, formerly the CEO of Ghana Chamber of Mines and currently the head of Salt and Light Ministries. Mommy, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ebert.
Always a great pleasure to meet you.
To be with you again.
You look younger and younger with the passing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I wish you long life and good health.
Thank you. I receive it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Affirmative action. I don't know how we would define affirmative action, Mommy.
Listening to you as you introduced the program, I was very touched by some of the words you used. Is a deliberate, intentional action to ensure that minorities and women don't miss out on any issues of development, whether educational, jobs, or anything. So it's intentional. When you say affirmative, it means you are giving acceptance to a group of people who have otherwise not had the opportunity to play on a level playing field. Yes. So this is really and it's been practiced for some time. I think, as you said, in 1964, the Civil Rights Movement, but even before then, I think that some measure of it was practiced. Interestingly, our first president practiced it. After the elections, he deliberately gave a seat to women in the various regions. 10 women, he selected 10 women and gave them seats, even though they hadn't run for the elections. But they became members of parliament. Susan Al-Hassan, Mrs. Grace Ayinsu, Lucenin, and a few other names, they were in parliament. I think I have it in my notes.
You have a whole list.
Yes. And the idea is to ensure that people who would otherwise not have the opportunity are given the opportunity.
Yes, Mama.
Now, when we talk about affirmative action, we shouldn't really think of lowering the bar, which is sometimes how some people think. You're not lowering the bar. If anything, you're raising it. Raising it by ensuring that the minorities, women, maybe even people with disabilities and so on, get the opportunity to significantly and positively impact development.
Mommy, is it more about giving people opportunities based upon competence, or it's more about sympathy because they are an underprivileged, French group?
No. The idea is, if you believe in equal opportunity, then equal opportunity means equal opportunity. It has nothing to do with sympathy. In fact, you can put it this way. Every nation wants to harness the resources of all its human beings. So your human capital, which knows no bounds of ethnicity, you know, sex,
Okay.
faith,
Okay.
or anything.
Okay.
You know, you want to get your people to be involved in development.
Okay.
And the best is what you're looking for.
Okay.
But how do you get the best when there's no opportunity to even determine
Okay.
that?
Okay.
So that is how affirmative action works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mommy, would you say women have been on the receiving end, so to speak? If possible, take us to pre-colonial times. During that epoch, was the woman downtrodden? Was she looked down upon by the Ghanaian culture?
I think our culture, you know, actually it's, how should I put it? I think it's contradictory in terms, because you know the value we put on our mothers.
Yes, we do.
In all our societies, whether it is patrilineal
Okay.
or matrilineal,
Okay.
the mother still holds a very important position in the home. And yet you and I also know
Yeah.
that mothers are looked down upon. They're looked down upon. In some cultures, for example, they don't have access to land.
Wow.
You know, they can't do, if they get married, for example, they can't do anything without the husband's approval.
Okay.
When there's a group in the house to discuss things,
Yeah.
and so on, they usually would not. That's in our culture. They
Yeah.
wouldn't be given the opportunities. And yet, they're the same people who become queen mothers, and so on. But you know, in the chief's court, at least among their clans, you find that the queen mother is respected as somebody who's the chief's confidant.
Okay.
And yet she doesn't really sit in state when the chief is holding court.
I see.
On ceremonial occasions.
I see.
You know, she will be consulted on many things, but she's more visible on ceremonial occasions. Because when the chief holds court and there's an impasse, they will say, we're going to ask the old woman, which means they're going to consult the queen mother
Okay.
to find out what the situation is.
Okay.
Otherwise, she would be in court,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
So we have a series of contradictions.
Okay.
And when it comes to faith, for example, even though the faith does not specify that the woman is inferior, you still have a way in which you think, you know, stay in the background,
Okay.
you know, don't come forward, and so
Okay.
on.
Okay.
And yet, isn't it interesting that we all leave the nurturing of children to the same person
Yes.
called the woman,
in
who's
mother.
not given the pride of place?
Yes. Yes, mom.
You know, so if I guess we were useless,
Okay.
we wouldn't be the ones who would be nurturing.
Okay.
We wouldn't be the ones who would be asked to run the household.
Okay.
Because most times in the home, the man will give the money, but in terms of managing the resources, it is left to the woman to do.
To do.
So if she were not capable, she wouldn't be able to run the home.
Okay.
When a man, you know, has a high position in the village or elsewhere and is coming home with a delegation of friends and so on, all he will do is to send a message to the wife.
Okay.
20 of us are coming.
No
You know.
consultation.
No. And yet he expects that she would rise to the occasion.
Wow.
So we have this contradictory situation of we're good, and yet we should be more heard than seen,
Okay.
or something like that.
Okay.
But things are changing.
Okay.
Things are changing significantly.
Okay.
And I must admit that education is a wonderful leveler,
Okay.
because it really levels the playing field.
Okay.
And you find that your competence, your intelligence is what propels you up. And now, even in the workplace, though the percentages are low, you will find that women are gaining grounds. In the banks, for example, you have some women managing directors. In other corporate organizations,
Okay.
you have some women managing directors.
Okay.
Today I heard on BBC that NASDAQ also is now headed by a woman
Oh, I see.
for the very first time in 200 years.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yes, and that,
It is on the stock exchange.
yes, and that in the New York Stock Exchange, on the floor for the brokers,
Wow.
for the first time, there's a young
Wow.
woman, 23 years old,
Wow.
in the midst of 100 men, and black American at that.
Oh, that's impressive.
It is so impressive.
Doc, in our local parlance, we say nobody wants to point to the direction of their house with their left hand.
Yes.
We just had the royal wedding in the United Kingdom. During the years of wilderness in medieval times and before then, perhaps the role you talk about of the Queen Mother existed even during the time of Osei the First.
Yes.
And so is it that we have been more enlightened, so to speak, on the issue of rights of women and affirmative action than Western countries we look up to today?
Yes, in some instances, yes. For example, here in Ghana, women earn the same pay for the same job. It doesn't happen in Europe.
Okay.
It doesn't happen in America. You will still be paid less.
Okay. Okay.
So in some instances, yes,
Okay.
we have done tremendously well.
Okay.
And when it comes to even women in the boardrooms and so on,
Okay.
I think the percentages here in our country
Okay.
are impressive. Not good enough. Not good enough. But I think we compare very well to most European countries, except the Nordic countries.
The U.S. Seems to be does it do better statistically?
No,
because women started
6%.
voting less than a century ago.
I know. It is not better, and they had to fight the suffragette movement.
Yes.
But funny, do you know that
Yes.
until 1975, if you were a woman in Ghana, you couldn't get a passport without your husband's consent
I see.
or your father's consent.
Really?
And I remember two women who really fought hard to get this done through the National Council of Women and Development, Justice Annie Jaggi of blessed memory,
Okay.
and Professor Dolphine, Florence Dolphine.
Okay.
You know, I think Justice Annie Jaggi was the chair and Professor Dolphine was the executive director, and they really pushed, and it was passed in 1975. A lot of people don't know this.
So around 75, women didn't have any suffrage. They couldn't exercise their franchise.
Not to get a passport. We could vote, but if you needed a passport, you know, if you were married, you needed your husband's consent.
What if you were a spinster?
Your father.
I see.
And it would have been interesting if it had happened to me, because I would have had to find out, you know, how do I get my father since he had died?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, but I guess you could also get your workplace to give you but now you can go and get your passport very easily.
I should have asked you this question during the twilight of the discussion.
Yes.
But people see you exude so much competence in terms of leadership skills. Do you think Ghana is ready for a female president, or we need some time? Not even the US has given Hillary Clinton the opportunity.
I think we are as ready as ever. You know, remember that Her Excellency Mrs. Kunedu Ajiman Rawlings, you know, is the leader of her party, and she stood for elections. You know, so what we need to do is to have the two major parties field a woman.
Okay.
Whether we are ready for that from the party's perspective. I think when it comes to voting, you could probably get a lot of people to vote if a good candidate is fielded.
Do you mind running as vice president for a future flag bearer of your party?
I think I'm past the age. I look very young, but as somebody will say, I'm no spring chicken.
Mommy, let's broaden the spectre of the conversation.
Yes.
Beijing Conference and its unintended consequences. Today, corporate women in Ghana are called Pepper Dem Ministries. So, how do you tread a fine line between making women assertive and vocal and then going overboard to have very extreme views that run counter to our culture as Africans?
Yes. Again, I think it's a question of the personality of the person, you know, because I have known some extraordinary corporate women who are wonderfully married. I don't have her permission, but I still wouldn't mind mentioning her name, Mrs. Chinri Hesse. I don't know whether you've heard of her. She's currently the first lady chancellor of the University of Ghana.
I see.
Yes. And she was, I think, one of the first, if not the first, what you would call today chief director. Okay. You know, it was called principal secretary.
Okay.
She used to be at the Ministry of Finance.
Okay.
And then she went to work with the UN, you know, and she's still very active, but she's wonderfully married to Mr. Chinri Hesse, who used to be the director of state prosecutions in Ghana, and after his retirement went to work in Southern Africa. I can cite my own sister. My sister was corporate. She was working in the bank, but she doesn't even have house help. So she does practically everything at home. Cooks, and they have a beautiful relationship. So I think it depends a lot. You can have confidence, but you know, how do you behave towards the person you love? That is the bottom line. If you're married, it's a question of, I love this person, so I married him. And so what I do, or what we do together, is based on understanding of the way we want to take our love. You know, it's not based on a master-servant relationship. So I think we need to draw that line. Yes.
And would you call for a rethink of the mantra, what men can do, women can do, and even do better, since we are partners in development? Could you call for a rethink of that mantra?
I think that as women are asserting themselves more and more, then the issue is that, look, we can do it and perhaps do it better. But as you said, when we come to recognize that this world is made of male and female, that is humanity. Humanity is male and female, partners together, you know, building each other up, strengthening each other, so that each can play the role that best provides development. And so I would disagree with a woman's place is in the kitchen. Some men love to cook, and they're good at it too. Some men love to sew. My attire was sewn by a man. It's a male tailor, you know, but he does lots of women's clothing, and he's really great. So, you know, I mean, and he's no kujobesia, if you know what I mean. He's not effeminate or anything like that. So you're right, we should see each other as partners. But sometimes when you have been marginalized for so long, you sort of feel that you have to be abrasive. You have to have a strong voice before you're listened to.
Mommy, we shall soon delve into our conservative family values and affirmative action, and also the demeanor and conduct of the woman in a corporate environment. But I would want to ask this question up front. You are an aged stateswoman. You have a firm grip on our culture, and you appreciate what affirmative action means. What about millennials? Younger ladies, they are quite detached. Is there any avenue to mentor them and correct their perception of affirmative action rather than a contestation with the male, you know, and gender?
Well, you know, a lot of these young ladies, the millennials, they're really struggling in a difficult world. They've been to school like everybody else. They believe in career like everybody else. It's difficult for them to appreciate, for example, and I think they should not accept it, that, you know, you're a millennial, I'm a millennial, we're both working,
Yeah.
you know, but when we come home, the male, you're totally detached from everything that is happening. I'm not saying go and cook while I sit down and cross my legs, but I want it be nice and romantic. If whilst I'm cutting the onions, maybe you're fetching the tomato from the fridge for me and we are having a nice chat, you know. Or if we have a little baby, that I can actually go and cook whilst you take care of the baby, that I don't have to do both.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I think we need our men also. And I must admit that perhaps as mothers, we're not doing our sons any good. Because to raise them up, for them to think somebody should be serving them all the time while they don't do anything, is not even good for their own ego. It's not good for their ego. I think we should raise them to recognize that, look, it's a partnership.
Okay.
It's a partnership. When you get into a relationship, it's a partnership.
Okay.
The two of you love each other. You want to support each other. You want to build each other up. And that's how you look at it.
Okay.
When you go to work, each of you is going to work. You know, the money comes, it's spent by the two of you.
Okay.
You know, and it's a life together. You're building a life together. The children belong to the two of you.
Yes.
I must say, I know a few millennials who are doing very well.
Oh, great.
They change nappies, you know, they'll change the pampers, they'll hold the babies, and so on. So I think that we haven't got to that stage where we are antagonists.
Okay.
You know, I don't think even in Ghana, women consider themselves antagonists to men. I don't think so.
Doc, this may sound a bit queer. Can you itemize 3 or 5 things a woman should do at home, even if she holds a PhD and a husband holds only a first degree? So let's go. Doing the dishes, whose responsibility is it? Or you think it's a joint venture?
It's a joint venture. When you don't have any house help, I think it's a beautiful joint venture. One of you can wash and the other one can dry. It's wonderful.
But the ego of an African man.
Oh,
Dog.
but you love the woman. Do you want to tire her so much that you can't even cuddle her when she comes to bed because she's tired? That's not what you really want. That's not what you really want. What you want is a partner who will be able to satisfy you, you know, at all levels. And for example, if they're just the two of you in the house, you know, and cooking is finished and you go in there, you say, oh, let's wash the dishes together. It won't be much. Your plate, her plate, you know, side plate, glass also, it wouldn't take long. It will take you less than 10 minutes for both of you to do this.
But mommy, they say when we give you an inch,
We take
you
a
take a
mile.
mile. And in very conservative homes,
Yes.
when your mom visits and she sees you wash,
Yes.
she thinks
The
woman has taken you
beguiled
somewhere.
you.
Yes, she's taken you somewhere.
Bewitched you.
She's bewitched you. So how do we educate people to understand that you can be a romantic father or husband, but then still be within your periphery,
I think so.
your purview as the man of the house, so to speak?
I know a couple who began their life in a wonderful way. On Saturdays, they will wash together, both of them, sitting on their stools and washing together. And as the children began to grow up, they roped the children in. They have 2 children, a boy and a girl. You know, they roped them in. So it was like a family affair. It was a family affair, and they have one of the most beautiful relations. The man was in the corporate world, and so was the woman. She was the bank manager. You know, but they did things together. That's why I'm stressing on the word, you love each other and you want the best for each other. You know, no man will say, I'm going to marry somebody who will be a house help to me. That's not how you do it, is it?
No.
That's not how you do it.
Yes.
You know, so if that's not how you do it, then you don't reduce her to that level. Don't worry, a lot of the women too don't want you to do anything. You know, a lot of the women are also terrified that if a family member visited,
yes,
and they saw their husband doing that, they will blame the women for not doing well. So it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. My issue is, as young couples, if we can afford it, let's make our lives easier. Let's buy a washing machine.
But that's a luxury.
If you can afford it. I think you must invest in it, just like you would invest in a deep freezer. Because you invest in a deep freezer, that's something you don't call a luxury. You don't call a refrigerator a luxury, but it's as expensive as the washing machine. You know, so don't see it as a luxury. See it as a tool to make things easier. You know, I would recommend a blender. You know, use the apotoyiwa for specific things, but surely if you're going to, you know, cook some soup and so on,
if I want a good eto, I think you should be on your knees and
yes,
use
that's
the
what
calabash.
There's no way you are going to do eto any other way. You will still use your apotoyiwa. You know, for some people, for example, if they want to eat pepper with their kenke and fish, they still prefer the apotoyiwa.
So they will use the asanka.
Asanka, yes. They will use the asanka. And I don't blame them, because when you use a blender, somehow it gets watery. Yeah, it gets watery. So, but it makes life easier. Buy a rice cooker, you know, so that the rice is on. You can leave that to be on, and you can concentrate on even free the space on your cooker and do other things. But you see, all these things are not really affirmative action, because affirmative action is a deliberate, intentional decision to give quotas, to decide. For example, right now the bill in Parliament is thinking of 40% women at all levels, in corporate places, in public institutions, in political parties, and so on and so forth. You know, so as we're developing and we are understanding the way love should be, you know, we may decide that the man grew up knowing how to use the asanka better than I do. So if we're going to eat kenke and fish, there's nothing wrong in him doing the pepper. It's just between the two of us.
A few quick questions. You alluded to this in a subtle way, Mommy. How do you address issues of salary discrepancies? You say Ghana is doing fairly well.
Ghana, being a woman in Ghana does not get you less pay for doing the same job. So let's say medical doctors, female medical doctors, they are paid the same as their male counterparts. Female lawyers,
and they put in the same quantum of work.
Yes, sometimes the ladies work even harder. Yeah, you have to actually, when you're in the corporate world, you realize that you have to work harder, because expectations of you are very high. Already you are coming, you know, from a prejudice point of view. They are wondering whether this lady can do it. So you have to work hard. Besides, working hard is good. It makes you excel, and it increases your competence.
I pity working class single mothers. Ghana has no provision for alimonies. Would you call for passing legislation to do? So there's so much recklessness in terms of parenthood.
Some of our men are, I'm sorry to use this strong word, but totally irresponsible. Some of our men are totally irresponsible. And definitely, whilst there is no law for alimony, when they go to DAFSU, they're usually told to make sure they care for the child.
And there is no punitive element.
Exactly. There's no punitive element. So even at DAFSU, where they're told this child is yours, you have to do it, then there should be something punitive. There should be. So it's even good for the man. You know, these days, then you grow up and suddenly your child is doing well and you want to have a claim to the child. It happens a lot. You know, when they'll start boasting, yes, this is my child. Because usually the child will be bearing the man's name. You know. So I think the alimony issue, especially if you get up and go, you should be, the woman should be paid alimony.
Yeah, a man can impregnate 3 different women.
Words at the same time, and just walk away. And just walk away. And our society should not accept it even before it becomes law. You know, in our more traditional societies, there were punitive measures. You, the man, you were hauled before the chiefs or the skins, and you were made to do the needful. So in our purely traditional societies, where, you know, we live in smaller communities and we know each other, these things don't happen so rampantly. It is as we get larger, become more cosmopolitan, and there may be a visiting somebody, somebody who's come to do a short stint in the town, will do something like that, doesn't live in the town, and will just walk away. You know.
Is it true, or is a myth, that executive women are bossy? You've served in such capacities at various levels, and we hear very harrowing stories of women shutting everybody out.
Skills. It has to do with leadership skills. But for the women who are bossy, I think it is just the environment. I must say that a lot of men find it difficult to live with a female superior officer. And sometimes to get things done, you have to really put your foot down and so on to get things done. Because if you don't do that, you probably would not get much out of the people you work with. But there are some also who, in order to avoid being seen as weak, they become bossy. But being bossy is not a good leadership style, because every great leader is one who recognizes the leadership skills in others and harnesses them for the good of the organization. You know, so you have to see something good in the next, even your subordinate officer. There has to be something good in the person, otherwise you wouldn't give them tasks. You know, so that mentality is what we need. I think we need a paradigm shift. Now, if you're a woman and you attain a position by merit, please know that your merit is what will take you up. You don't have to be bossy. And I would encourage both men and women who gain certain leadership positions to take leadership seriously enough to want to know how they should lead, what different styles there are, what the competencies are, you know, how your relationships should be with those you work with, and so on and so forth. Because leadership is a skill which we need to learn.
How does a woman in a leadership position remain modest but manage the ego of the males that are serving under her? How does she do that?
Again, if the woman knows that it is us, not me and them, that we really have to work as a team. Of course, you know that in every team there are some people who seem to dominate and so on, but the whole thing about a team is that we're doing it together. And I think that is the approach that should be communicated, not just once but often. And the communication is not only verbal, it also has to be body language. You know, your expressions, your demeanor, the way you carry yourself should communicate that I consider you.
The high heels alone are scary, mommy.
You know,
Yes.
it should give the notion that, look, we are in this job together. We want the best for the organization.
Okay.
And we are going to have to do it together. In every team, there's a leader. I just happen to be the leader. But I can't do it by myself. We have to do it as a team. So even when I seem to be giving direction, I'm trying to get all of us to see things in a certain way, so we'll go in that direction. So I'm not coming to just insist, let's do this. No. So I think that is what every leader should do. You should communicate that it's a team effort and you get the best results.
Some of the most tumultuous state institutions have been those headed by women, the Electoral Commission, the Gender Ministry at various levels. Would you make an upfront admission that there's a problem?
I think it's not because they are women, but I think because of the style of the leaders. It's not because they are women, because the Chief Justice, previous Chief Justice, was a woman. The current one is a woman. You have not heard any tumultuous problems within the courts.
That's true.
You know, and the Attorney General is a woman. Previous one was a woman.
And we had a Speaker of Parliament, your namesake, who was a woman.
Auntie Joyce Bamford Addo. Yes, you know. So it is not just being a woman, but I think it's leadership's style.
Mommy, I will take you into, because you are into ministry, I will take you into the realm of morality.
Yeah.
How, we go for a quick commercial.
Right.
When we come back, we continue the conversation with Dr. Joyce I. Stick and stay with us. We are still in the studio with our mother, our auntie, our grandmother, a breath of fresh air to listen to all the time. Evergreen, Dr. Joyce I. Doc, I wanted us to delve a bit into the arena of morality. There are women who say they will pursue their career, they won't marry, but they invest in sex toys.
Oh.
Yes, they do. They invest in sex toys. So is marriage an important thing beyond our culture for a woman to even thrive in her career? Having a stable emotional, posture.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that every woman yearns for marriage. Very, very few spurn it. Like every man also yearns for marriage, and very few men spurn it. And those who spurn it are like philanders. They're not really happy. You know, they are like butterflies moving from one flower to the other, getting as much nectar as they think they need to have. Only thing is that after the bee produces the honey, it dies, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So there's death. There's death also in the wrong nectar.
Okay.
So, but you are right. The family institution is under serious attack.
Okay.
Some of it self-inflicted, because we are all chasing after material things. They're good. Material things are good. I love to drive a car. You know, I love to have a TV.
Okay.
I used to love shoes. These days, I don't quite get the shoes I'm looking for. But, those things. I love to dress well.
And then you don't do wigs, which is impressive.
No, I don't do wigs. I don't know what I'll look like in a wig. So it's like there's this rat race, which is making us demean ourselves and turn each other as male and female into objects of pleasure, rather than building a union Because marriage is meant to be a union of two people who grow into each other. You know, at least in the Bible, the two are to become one.
Okay.
And I like something in the book of Genesis, which says that they were naked and not afraid. I take it to be transparent.
Okay.
Transparent with each other and not afraid, you know, and so on. Somehow, we all yearn for companionship. We all yearn to be with someone. And yet, our self-centeredness is keeping us from really bonding the way we should. Some of the self-centeredness is like, oh, I must get to the top of my career. But when you get to the top and you are emotionally unhappy, what have you really achieved? And who says you can't get to the top without being emotionally, you know, stable? You have to. You know, and as I said, I know people who have done it and have done it well. You know, our upbringing is also very important. And I pray that people who have stable marital homes will mentor their children, nurture their children to understand that marriage is not meant to be without issues.
Okay.
And I like the Akan proverb, which says that even the tongue and the teeth sometimes quarrel. I don't know whether it's happened to you, but sometimes you're eating and by the time you realize it, you've bitten your tongue and it's so painful.
Yes.
If we will wrap our minds around that,
okay,
you know, and yet the tongue does not decide; it is not staying in the mouth.
Wow.
Nor does it order the teeth to be all pulled out.
Wow.
Because the tongue will not be able to function if there are no teeth.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
So whilst they, you know, hurt each other from time to time, they need each other, and they have to learn. It has to be an art of ensuring that you're still in the same space, but you're not in each other's way as such. You know, I think that is how we must make it. And young people, sometimes I feel sorry for them because honestly, they are the millennials. They are really in serious trouble because the distraction.
Wow.
The distraction is so great. Look at what is happening now with our phones.
Social media.
And social media. But think of it, sometimes you take somebody out to the restaurant.
Yeah.
And everybody's on their phone.
Yeah.
So why did they go to the restaurant? Why didn't each person stay in their home?
So we live in a virtual world and don't live in a real one. Even
one.
Around the family dining table, after every morsel, someone is fidgeting their phone.
Yes. You know, and causing more and more separation.
Okay.
So instead of talking to each other, we're talking to our phone. And so actually, the level of emotional problems is increasing. It's increasing because really, human beings were not meant to bond with machines.
Wow.
We're supposed to be bonding with one another.
Wow.
You know, so if we become more machine oriented, we lose the beauty of the human relationship. You know, and now people will go to the internet to do everything. Social media to do everything. You know, because there are people out there, they haven't met each other before, but they seem to get on. But of course you will get on. You haven't met the person before.
Yes.
Of course you will get on.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a face-to-face thing.
Yeah.
You know, so people are even learning how to commit suicide.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
On the net.
Wow.
Yes, there are clubs.
Suicide clubs.
Suicide clubs.
On this suicidal note, we open the phone lines. The phone number is scrolling on your set. You can call to ask Dr. Joyce any questions you may have. And Doc, would you then advocate 3 hours away from devices for every family that wants to spend quality time?
Yes, yes. In my son and his wife's home, they don't debar the children from using their tablets and so on and so forth, but at table, totally out. And then there's time, in fact, they even tell them to go and get some sweat hours, which means those stay inside, go out, run around, sweat, and get healthy. So they have to go out and do some 30 minutes or 45 minutes sweat hours, and then talk to each other. And then they also try and get them other playthings. The other day, for example, they bought a kit for the little one, out of which you can build things. You can build houses, you can build cars, and so on. And the instructions are on the TV. But the kit enables you to do that. And when I went, oh, she was busy, and she was showing me some of the things she had done and so on. They've also bought a drawing board. So each of them has a mallet that they can draw on with. Sometimes some of the chalk finds its way on the pavement in the house and so on. But they try to move them away from the screen. Either it's a tablet or a laptop or a phone, you know, so that they can actually read, and they've surrounded them with books. And they ask them, when the last time you read this? And even on the TV, what they try to do is to do documentaries, watch documentaries with them.
Then they must be really smart, precocious
Very
children.
precocious. Very precocious.
Wow.
You know, watch, you know, and discuss.
But our kids now watch Kunkumbagia and
what is that?
Mahubala.
What is that?
These are,
I've never watched anything like that before.
Indian telenovelas with 3 voiceovers.
How?
And whole families can spend hours on end watching them.
No. It's not good. You know, I grew up, of course, my mother couldn't afford a television when it first came. But my mother loved to read. Even on her deathbed, she carried a book. When she was going to the hospital, I'm sure she knew she wasn't going to come back. But she had a book with her. And she had a friend, and they would exchange books. So I grew up reading. There were books, magazines, comics, and so on. And my mother made us go to the library early. So when you go and bring a library book, everybody in the house will read it. You know, so reading is a culture I also passed on to my son, who has also passed it on to his children. So the house is filled with books, you know, and they read very voraciously, you know. But sometimes they also, you know, get enticed by them. But they are not allowed to watch. I'm the one who spoils them at weekends. When they come over, they may watch some cartoons. But when it's too violent, I tell them, this one, no, we're not going to. And I'm watching it with them. So if I don't like it, then they too, they don't have to like it.
Doc, we would say maybe you didn't have a privileged upbringing. But as an adult, education took you to the highest pedestal every woman.
Oh, yes.
How about people in shanty towns and slums?
Education is a great leveler. We must encourage everybody to go to school. And that is why education now, from kindergarten to senior high school, is free. Parents, and this campaign must never stop, because this nation is going to develop on the back of educated people. So it doesn't matter, you know, there should be a school even in the shanty town, close by, so that the children can go. You know, it's also a way of getting fun for the children. You know, when they meet other children and they have to learn together, draw together. And so sometimes they may be even sitting on the floor. But this whole idea of being together and being taught is something that children look up to. I'm so sure when you were growing up, you loved to go to school.
I had a little of that. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
I loved
You
to
know,
go to school.
you know, you loved to go to school, and it was
Yes.
always even a slight escape from all the work that they used to
home.
give us when we were growing up.
That's really true.
You know, fetching water early in the morning, waking up to do the fire, to warm the water, everybody to bathe, and so on and so forth. So school was always a wonderful time.
Would you call for the resuscitation of the days of by the fireside?
Some of the stories were good, but you know, I have a thing with the Anansi stories. We must always let people know that the Anansi story has a moral, and the moral is that you cannot keep on cheating and not get disgraced. But you know, we zero in all of Anansi's antics, and only use a sentence to talk about the immorality of his actions. So we must use that, yes, to tell good stories, both Anansi and other stories that always have a moral, which will help, you know, raise the consciousness.
There isn't a single educational kid-friendly program on TV in Ghana.
Really?
There isn't a single one. So I'm sure in your private musings with senior citizens like Mame Dokono, some of these issues come up.
Yes.
Would you call for someone like Mame Dokono to take up the mantle again?
I know she's ready to take up the mantle, but you know, it costs a lot of money
to get a platform,
to get and to be on TV. You know, they will ask you to bring sponsors and so on. So I would also ask those who have private TV licenses to really do the needful. It's supposed to be for information, education, and entertainment. And if you see the information and education in the Mame Dokono program, then you'll be doing two things at the same time. And yet you'll also be tackling the third, which is entertainment. So I think we need a paradigm shift. I guess the license costs so much, you want to rake in and be able to pay your debts. You know, but I think that we must decide to have some core values, you know, for those of us who have private stations.
Cheche Kule is normal.
Yes.
We grew up enjoying
watching Cheche Kule, yes.
Saturday mornings were superb.
Yeah. So we really, now there is a lot of liberalization. And that liberalization is leading to, I would say, needless competition. And people are just interested in the viewership and so on. So if they can foist a program on us and give it, you know, a local language, you know, plastering over, you know, then we think it's a good thing. But we fail to realize that this is a powerful tool for learning, a powerful tool for building values. Right now we're teaching wrong values, but it's a powerful tool for building values. It's a powerful tool for sharing information. It's a powerful tool for entertainment. A lot of people still can do drama sketches, even in school. You know, you go to a school's speech and prize giving day and they're doing a sketch, and you can see, look, if there was a cameraman there, bam, you would already have a program, a good program. You know, so maybe we should begin to get involved and take our TVs, cameras around places where it won't cost us so much money to create a studio and do those things, but just catch some of these things and show them.
Mommy, the youth in this country, and we are, you know, getting to the dying embers of this conversation, we need a renaissance.
Yes.
But what straw can we cling to? Telcos that control big bucks are sponsoring singing and dancing programs, basically music. And young men particularly are so engrossed with English Premiership and UEFA Champions League. Where will that spark of self-awareness that dawned on Dr. Nkrumah and other people who had a clear conscience to lead this country and take it to the promised land, where do we expect it to come from?
But there's a critical mass building up. I went to a program called Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is about public speaking and so on. And I was quite amazed to find a lot of young people. You know, there's this CEO's platform. Okay. These are being run by young entrepreneurs.
Okay.
You know, so I think that it has dawned on some people that we can't continue to go this way.
Wow.
And we're building the critical mass. It takes time. But it's building up. The CEO's platform, for example, does not say that you have to run a business of 1 million Ghana cedis before you can join. So long as you're running your company and you're at the head of your company. And it's even a platform for nurturing and mentoring.
Okay, Doc, sorry, there's a caller. Hello, your name and where you calling from? Hello?
Hello.
Your name and where your name and where you calling us from?
Please, my name is Ima, calling from Kumasi.
Ima from Kumasi. Speak to Doc.
I'm Ima, calling from Kumasi.
Ima, you can actually put off your TV set or lower the volume on your set and you can still hear us audibly. Okay, so I'm sorry we lost you, Ima. And please, when you call, you can just put off your TV set and we'll still hear you. There's a critical mass.
That's building up. Okay. That's usually what happens. You know, you just need a few dedicated people who are totally dissatisfied with the status quo and want to make a positive difference.
Okay.
And it's building up. It's building up. There's a groundswell.
Okay.
We need to get it into a movement stage. For example, a few people and I have also started what we call the One Ghana movement.
One Ghana movement.
One Ghana movement.
What is it about, Mommy?
It's about good citizenship. We're trying to draw people's attention to good citizenship. It's about holding our public officers accountable. And it is about getting a clean environment. So we've even launched a sanitation program working with the mayor of Accra and a service provider, a sanitation service provider called Jekora. We're working with the Ministry of Sanitation. We're trying to get LECMA and a few others, get some school, GS, get some schools, so that through a right way campaign, we can actually let people know that there's a right way of doing things. So we launched not too long ago on the street from Akwaje Circle to the Ridge Circle. We've put some bins around, you know, one, and we are even asking people to adopt a bin. So a few of you can come together, and if you pay about 150, 160 Ghana cedis, we could get a bin. And then in order to keep it running and for the administrative cost, few of you can decide to pay 50 cedis a month, and we'll be able to do that. So if you like, we will inscribe your name on it, and so on.
Okay. Hello, your name and where you calling us from? Okay, the line dropped. Yes. So this campaign, how widespread is it, Mommy? How many subscribers are there?
Well, we are on WhatsApp and Facebook.
Oh, I see.
And we're building
social media.
We're using social. We're building up
momentum,
you know, so that we can really make a difference.
But how tough is it to do outreach programs outside politics? It must be very difficult.
It is quite difficult, but you know, there are quite a number of people who are interested actually. It's just that they don't know where to congregate, where to work together, and so on and so forth.
And who to give their CD to.
Exactly.
A trustworthy person.
Yes, the trustworthy people. You know, when we started the One Ghana movement, for example, some people said it was going to be a political movement to overthrow the government. You know, I mean, just because the word movement is in it.
Yeah.
But everything has to be, there has to be a momentum. There has to be a momentum. It has to move. You know, things that need doing have to be done well, and there has to be a constant movement, because what you did yesterday may not be relevant for today or even tomorrow. So we have to be constantly thinking about better ways of doing the same thing.
Mommy, there is a caller. Hello, your name and where you calling from? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, your name and where you calling us from?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Your name and where you calling us from? Oh,
what's up been good today?
The lines.
The lines haven't helped today.
Mommy, I'll take you to some, you know, uncharted terrains. Number one, I've taken part in a human rights campaign, and the chairman of a major political party and I were arrested for some hours. We spent some time behind counterback, and the conditions in our cells are deplorable. How about women? And what do you have to say about that? Women behind the bars. How can we give them rehab and turn them into assets to the society? Women and juvenile girls that are facing incarceration.
In the first place, incarceration is meant to rehabilitate. Incarceration is no longer punitive. Being away is the punitive thing, but you're not supposed to go through a double jeopardy. And I don't understand why we are not willing to set money aside to give people dignity. You know, yes, the person has committed a crime, maybe a heinous crime, but does the counterback have to be so dirty? Does it have to be a place, you know, where you hold several people there when the space is meant for maybe just 1/5?
It's dehumanizing. There's no ventilation.
No ventilation. Terrible. And I think those who should protest against it the most should be the police, who hold people at the counterback, because it is a disgrace to the profession. You are peace officers, and you're to hold somebody who has, gone off and abused the law. But you want the person to know that the person has abused the law. The person is not supposed to be dehumanized. You know, so I think the battle, maybe I'll find some police bigwigs and talk about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because even cleaning the place should not be difficult. When you have police recruits all the time, people are there to clean the place, and so it should not be difficult.
Yeah.
It should not.
Okay.
You know.
Mommy, all too soon. Time hasn't been our best of friends.
It's because we've got too many things to talk about.
Yes, and Mommy, thank you for coming out on such a blissful and, you know, peaceful evening to talk to us. In closing, I would want you to look into the camera and address the nation on the issue we have discussed today in a minute, if you don't mind.
In a minute, what I'd like to tell the people of this dear country is that affirmative action is not about changing the scales and putting men into the minority.
Okay.
It is not also meant for women to be in competition with men.
Okay.
What affirmative action seeks to do is to provide a level playing field, give good opportunities for many women, capable women, to be able to give their best to the nation at various levels.
Okay.
This is all that it's about.
Okay.
And that we need to recognize that really we have to live together as men and women if we want this nation to do well. It shouldn't be a question of the men against the women or the women against the men. It won't help anybody.
Thank you.
We need
so
each other.
much. Mommy, thank you for making time.
Thank you.
We've been in the studios with Dr. Joyce Ayi, formerly CEO of Ghana Chamber of Mines and currently the head of Salt and Water Ministries.
Salt and Light.
Salt and Light Ministries. So we come your way tomorrow with another edition of Time with Irbad Ibrahim. Stay blessed and keep praying for Mother Ghana. Good night.